Welcome back to the channel, my friends. It's your boy SE1 and another episode of Meet the Hobby. And we got someone who does his own podcast, my boy Trey G, out of New Mexico from All Sports Best. How you doing, Trey?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time out your day, getting into showing you a little bit what you do, or explaining to me what you do, and hearing you're getting into card collecting. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're a podcast currently on what platform do you have your podcast on?
Anywhere that you can get podcasts, you can get it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and the list goes on. But yeah, I mean, you should be able to find it if you just type in All Sports Best, wherever you listen to them, yeah.
Got you. So, what prompted the podcast? What started it off for you? What was the passion behind it?
And what's crazy is that it all started as a social media platform, just Instagram. Just thought, okay, I'm gonna go and inspire people. That was the whole beginning of it, just trying to inspire people with quotes and stuff like that. And then it turned into, I really like doing this. Let's have funny stuff go on and news, and then it started radio, and then a podcast that came right after that. So it all kind of just came as an avalanche of stuff to do, and then I just fell in love with doing it. So yeah, I mean, we haven't had as many podcast episodes as I'd like to in the last couple of years. When we do, it's always really a cool experience, and some great people like yourself that's been on the show, and it's just really fun to learn about people around sports, whether they're a player, a collector, a coach, you know, everybody's got a piece in sports, and that's what makes it special.
Oh, that's cool. So, is there a particular sport you're covering, or is this a broad range of everything?
And everything. We've had boxers, we've had football, basketball, baseball, soccer, everything. E-gaming was on. I mean, if you can think of a sport, it's either been on, or somebody that has played it or experienced it has been on as well.
Oh, that's cool. So in terms of like e-gaming, are you covering people that are actually professional gamers, or are you covering like other you could say hosts for esports gaming?
So the e-gaming experience that we had, it was an affiliate of the Washington Wizards when e-gaming first came out with the NBA affiliated teams and players and stuff. So it was somebody associated with that, which was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience just to learn about what goes on. And this player, they have like host places for them to go and live and play video games and stuff. So I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. But this was a couple of years back. I'm only imagining it's evolved since then.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's amazing what the term sport has evolved to, because sport, initially you think about athletes and any physical activity, but you go into esports. I mean, you go as far, cornhole. I mean, cornhole is a professional sport now, and it's pretty crazy. And what's the other thing I saw at ESPN? Professional tag. I don't know if you ever watch any of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so professional tag is one of those things that was pretty crazy for me to witness and see that it's actually on ESPN. So it's pretty interesting in how ESPN has kind of evolved. It's kind of like MTV. MTV was just music videos before. Now you go to MTV and you can't even watch a music video on MTV, right?
Just straight reality.
Exactly.
Nothing but now.
Exactly. So one of the guys that's frequent on your shows, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, is Trevor Rogers. You're a New Mexico guy. He's a New Mexico guy, native, and he frequents your show, to my understanding, right?
Yeah, he's been on. I think he's been on 3 times. Just a really cool dude, man. I can't say enough about how cool of a guy he is and all of his success. It's so easy to root for him because, number one, he's from the place that we're from, our hometown. We're from the same place, went to the same high school, and he is just such a cool guy to talk to, hang out with, that you can't go against him. You know what I mean? There's always those guys that you watch and you're just like, oh man, I can't stand that guy. He is the complete opposite, and if you watch him play, it kind of shows that he's just a competitor, but he's just so humble.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's one thing to compete, and then there's another thing where you're borderline that borderline of cocky and just confident. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, I see him. I had him on my fantasy league all year last year, and up until he had to take some time off, I mean, it was his rookie of the year, and he, unfortunately, with his situation, how he had to take those couple months off. He came back. They shut him down on the innings count, and so it was kind of like, oh man, he would have killed that rookie of the year. Not that Jonathan India didn't earn it. But it was Rogers to lose. It definitely was. It was awesome to see what kind of season he had. So that's pretty cool. So in terms of like guests and sports onto your show, is there any particular kind of sport you like to cover one more than the other, or are you just a fan of all different sports?
No, I mean, yeah, I like baseball as much as. Let's see. I guess as much as I've always loved baseball, I played baseball for a very long time. Played it in college, so I'd say I have a sweet spot for baseball. I think basketball is super exciting. It's got more flash to it. It's a faster game, so that's exciting too. And football, I don't know. I'd say football is probably third on my list, and but I still love it too. So those are my three sports, but I have a soft spot for baseball.
What position you play in baseball?
I was a pitcher. Well, I was a pitcher in college, and in high school I was a first baseman / pitcher. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's like Anthony Rizzo. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I pitched about as hard as he does.
Yeah. No, that's
his eepus pitch.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, what did you? So, if you were to take back your baseball career, which did you enjoy more doing? Did you enjoy throwing that strikeout, or did you enjoy more stretching out and catching that out?
Definitely the strikeout. As the first baseman, it's not as there's not really a lot of glory to it, right? I mean, everybody's looking for that cool diving play from somebody else. They throw it to first base, and you're just expected to make that catch, even if it's a short hop or whatever. But pitching, it's like lights are on you, spotlight's on you, and you have to figure out a way to make it work. So when it does, it's just that much more sweet, you know.
I agree. I mean, I played as a kid. I was a pitcher, shortstop, and third baseman. And, pitchers, and especially in this day and age, pitchers remind me of golfers. Is you could have one great year, but to be able to stay that consistent throughout a career is something super, super hard to do. And so when you got guys like Nolan Ryan, knuckleballer Phil Niekro, Tim Wakefield, those kind of guys that just lasted through the test of time. Greg Maddux is another one of those guys that comes off the top of my head. Schmaltz, like all those guys. When you start seeing pitchers like that to be able to test the time, keep their arm that fresh, it's something just amazing. Nowadays, it just seems like everyone by the third year is getting Tommy John. I don't know if that's a condition. I don't know if that's a conditioning thing. I don't know what that's coming from, but it just seems like, Strasburg, what did he get? Tommy John his rookie year, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. It's weird because, and I had Tommy John too, so I'm one of the guys, you can include me in those millions of people that have gotten it, but I don't know what it is. People are just trying to throw too hard, too quickly. I don't know what it is, because, I mean, you got guys like Nolan Ryan, the guy threw so hard, and you can't, why did he not get Tommy John? And I think that's kind of just a mystery.
Yeah.
Of what we have today in sports. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is different conditioning. Actually, me and my buddies were just talking about that the other day. Was what do you think it is with basketball, especially? And a lot of the things that I've learned throughout, especially in this day and age of the sports, of any sport, is that with all these endorsement contracts, with all these player contracts, they don't have the same kind of training regimen that the team controls. So everyone has their own trainers. Look at Zion Williamson, for instance. He's been rehabbing the whole year, and he's not with the team. He's rehabbing on his own. So he's going through a whole different regimen, something not team sponsored. And so they don't really know what's going on. So when he comes back, who's another team that comes off the top of my head? The Baltimore Ravens. Last year, they just had every injury to almost every player by like the third week of the league. So it's an interesting time in terms of physical shape what the bodies can handle. Like I said, with baseball, it just seems like if we're looking at the older days, it just seems like the players are a little bit more durable than they are than they are now, and I don't know what to attribute that to.
I'm just wondering, maybe, if you just kind of push through it. If we didn't have this is what's going on, stop, and we'll make it better, would people just keep going? Because I feel like that had to have happened back then, right? These injuries didn't just pop up and, it's just this new disease. It's not. I think that just back then, that hurts. Sorry, man, can you throw or no? Like, I don't think that there's I don't know. Maybe that's just my mindset, is that people were just tougher. They just weren't going to stop. And I mean, Tommy John hurt like heck. Like, there's no doubt about it. If they would have told me I had to keep throwing, I know I wouldn't have been able to perform at the same level. So I don't know how somebody like a Nolan Ryan could have done something like that if he did play through injuries and, just let it heal on its own.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a different time of the sport. Everyone, like in basketball, again, I keep going to basketball because, in my opinion, basketball has evolved the most in terms of conditioning of an athlete. You look at the older guys like, the Dr. J days, the Abdul-Jabbar days, the Karl Malone, Michael Jordan days. Like, these guys didn't have scheduled days off to rest their bodies. They didn't sit down before the playoffs, And now, as a fan, it kind of sucks that you pay all this money to go see a game, and it's that player's day off. Like, that's kind of rough. But goes back to the conditioning. I don't know if it's just something in the water. I mean, everybody seems to also have a nut allergy these days, which my daughter included. So who knows what's happening? But sorry to get a little off a subject there, but. You and I talked some, and you're getting into the card collecting hobby. So, what cards are you really going for right now? Are you going for a sport? Are you looking for just a player? What kind of collector are you trying to become?
So, at this point in time, as a beginner and just trying to stretch the money that I'm willing to spend out, I'm trying to go for guys that I think are going to be legit later on, and that I have somewhat of a connection to. Trevor comes to mind because I had him on the podcast and I know him. There's a couple of guys, and I'll give you one that I'm hoping will be, blossom as a player. His name's Daniel Johnson. He went to New Mexico State actually with me, and I'm hoping that he can come up. He's on the Cleveland Guardians, and he's had like some stints up in the big league, so I'm hoping that he does well. I've got a couple of Mike Brasu cards, and like I said, I mean, I either played with these guys or had them on the podcast and just thought, I think it'd be cool because I know them to collect these cards. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then I do mystery boxes because I like the thrill of not knowing what I'm getting and not knowing maybe there's a chance I could really get something big.
So you're in New Mexico. Are you in an area where it's hard to walk into a Target or a Walmart and find product? Because out here in California, I could, 9 times out of 10, I could walk into a Target and I'll never find anything.
Right. You know what? It's funny because I don't really there's a couple people in town that I know that really like to collect cards. Just a few, right? But no, you cannot find it still. I think that there's just enough people out there that are trying to just buy things up and resell them that you've either got to know somebody or you just got to hope that a friend of yours gets there and says, hey, you want me to buy you a box, because that's kind of where it's at. Especially if you have a job that you can't get there in the middle of the day because they restock it at like odd hours of mid-work day schedules. Yeah,
there's no rhyme or reason for it out here. I've heard, some of these resellers have paid off the vendors. So sometimes, product doesn't even make it to the shelf. But it's to each its own. Whatever floats your boat. I'm a more positive guy in the hobby. Unfortunately in California, it's very, very hard because there's not many card shops anymore. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why we got into the break channel is because, fortunately we have few connections to be able to get product. And to be able to break boxes of cards for people that, such as yourself, where product is hard to come by, it kind of just makes sense, especially if you're just chasing that one person. The one thing that's hard about the hobby is that, you can buy a whole bunch of retail boxes, about a whole bunch of hobby boxes on your own. But if you're collecting only a specific person, you're going to end up with a whole bunch of cards that you don't want, and no one knows what to do with them.
Yeah, no.
the base mountain. Everyone has a base card mountain of a whole bunch of cards they just don't want. I think isn't Nick Gonzalez another New Mexico guy?
Yeah. We had him on the podcast too. He's super cool. It was right before he got drafted. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks before he got drafted. I was like, I know he's gonna do something big, and he did. And they keep showing him on prospect stuff, so that's definitely something to think about for somebody that's up and coming.
That's cool. It didn't even just hit me until now. You have colleges. You have New Mexico State, and you have New Mexico. I think New Mexico is where Brian Urlacher went, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so outside of that, there's no professional teams in your area. So how did you choose on who to root for?
You know what? It's funny because I am the most, what would I say, like unorthodox fan when it comes to locations. For basketball, I like the Lakers. Okay, but then I go over to football and I like the Steelers, just because my family did. Like I didn't have any rhyme or reason to that, and so I cheer for them. And then for baseball, it's the Diamondbacks. They are actually close to us, so that one actually is the only one that makes sense. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place when it comes to my teams. Oh, no, you don't, and we don't have any loyalties, right? We're free agents over here in New Mexico, so there's a lot of everything.
So as a sport state, you could kind of say is you guys are just pushing the colleges. I'm sure pretty heavy then, right?
Yeah, UNM gets a lot of exposure. When anybody thinks of New Mexico, they just think of UNM and Albuquerque, the Lobos, right? Even when it's funny because even when New Mexico State, if you watch them play in the March Madness, they had an upset, and they were put on March Madness, the Twitter and everything, and it said, Aggies advance, and it had a picture of a Lobo on the, like an actual player on the Lobos. Yeah, and they removed it. I think they got some complaints. But if you're not from New Mexico, that would have just slipped by. Nobody would have noticed. And us here in New Mexico are like, you can't even just take a slight second to just take a second look. But they don't.
Oh man, that's that's hurtful.
Oh man. Yeah, because it was something we've been waiting for a long time. The Aggies make it to the March Madness tournament, or the national tournament. Yeah, the March Madness tournament every year almost. I think in the last 10 years they've probably made it like 7 or 8 times, and every time it's like, oh, they might be able to do it, and it just slips away. But this year we knocked it out, so it's cool.
Oh man, I could just only imagine, because that's how it is out here I'm in Southern California, and of course the Lakers and Clippers. I mean, the Clippers are always, the forgotten child until the last couple years they started somewhat making a run at taking that title, but not really. I mean, especially when LeBron came, and one of our guys' Jersey is a diehard Laker fan, and he just cannot stand what's going on with the Lakers right now.
Oh yeah,
it's. I mean. And out here, too, what's actually really bad about being in such a metropolitan area is that you can't even watch the Laker game on cable TV. You got to subscribe and be part of a specific service. So if you had NBA...
Like the local blackout thing?
Yeah, local blackout thing. So if you have NBA TV and you pay for the League Pass and the Lakers are on, you still can't watch the games because Time Warner Sports cancels that out. So
why is that? Does anybody even really know what the point of that is? So they get you to go buy tickets, or what is that?
It's because Time Warner is its own cable station. So if you don't have Time Warner cable, you have to either subscribe to DirecTV that has a contract with the Time Warner, or you just can't watch it. That's just ultimately what it comes out with. Yeah. And so it's one of the monopoly things. It hurts the fan base. I'm originally from Chicago, so I laughed when that happened. Like, I was laughing at all the Laker fans when that was happening to them because they can't even watch the games, and I'm like, well, I can watch my game,
Right, exactly.
So, but back to cards. I mean, so do you have one particular card that you would say is your favorite card right now?
I'm sorry, I lost you for a bit. What was that? I'm sorry.
As far as back to cards go, do you have one particular card that you're like, this is my favorite card so far that I've collected?
You know what? I don't. Yeah, I think so. I got one that was I have one that's graded. It's a LeBron James, but it's nothing special. It's probably worth maybe 15, $20, but it's my only graded card, and I just thought this is so cool. Now I'm actually in the hobby and I'm official and stuff. And then I got a chance to talk to you a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? That doesn't mean anything necessarily if it's not the greatest card. So I'd say for me right now, my favorite card is probably one with Trevor in it, and it's got his it's a event worn All-Star Edition jersey. So
nice.
That's probably my number one. And I bought it on eBay. I just went and shopped for it, but it's really cool. It's numbered, so I'll take it to the collection and be happy about it.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's the thing about your collection is, unfortunately the hobby's evolved. It's more of an investment more than a collection, as some will look at it. And your collection's your collection. Like, I'll be honest with you, my favorite card in my personal collection is I've been buying them up like no other on eBay. But it's a $5 card, and it is a Topps Heritage Rizzo card. It has Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant on it, and it's labeled Rizzo the Great. And that card's worth $5. But it's the most meaningful thing to me because I'm a Cubs fan, and these guys were part of a 100+ year drought. So what they meant to me as far as a Cub goes, I mean, it was one of the most special things I've seen in my lifetime being a Cubs fan.
Oh yeah, 100%. Now they're both gone.
Yeah, it makes me cry every time you get a Chris Bryant. There he is.
There he is, Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant
right at the perfect time.
Right,
he's not even in that jersey anymore, right? He's a Rocky.
Yeah, he's a Rocky. I mean, I think that's a good move for him. One, he got paid. I think it was $183 million. But two, I mean, just think about that ballpark and the stats that he's going to be able to put up in that ballpark. It's just going to be amazing for his career.
Porch over there, man.
Yeah, and he's only 27 years old. I mean, it's just amazing to me the kind of career he's already have. Rookie of the year, next Rookie of the Year, he was MVP, won the World Series, all in like the first 3 years of his career. So it's like, wow, like, what else does this guy have to play for? He got everything that people have retired not being able to achieve, and he achieved it so early on in his career. So, but so on to that Diamondbacks. How are you feeling about the Diamondbacks this year?
I'm never really. I'm optimistic. I just go into every season hoping I can go grab tickets and see a game. That's really all I can hope for. I'm not looking at a serious run. If you've seen the NL West, there's just no chance. I mean, there's a chance, but I mean, the Rockies just got better. The Giants are still going to be legit. Like there's some. I mean, below the Dodgers are in there, Padres are in there. It's not looking good.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation. The AL East is another one. I mean, yeah, the Orioles they're up and coming. But it's like, how do you compete when you have the Jays? The Jays are the worst team in the division, sitting next to the Royals. That being said, then you have the Yankees, you have the Red Sox, and then you have the chasing the Rays. So it's like, man, I get you, because I feel the same way about the Cubs. Everyone's making all these moves, and I just feel like we're shopping for free agents at the dollar store. So, it's
wild.
It definitely is wild, man. But I'm going to cut this video kind of short. Do you have any other last parting words? I mean, again, how do you watch your podcast or listen to your podcast?
Yeah, you can just see them. You can listen to them anywhere that you listen to podcasts most. If you have an iPhone, Apple Podcasts is great for you. Spotify for anybody else or with an iPhone. And if you just type in allsportsbest.com, all the links are there for you as well. So you can catch it right there on the website. Awesome.
And last thing I will say about my boy Trey is that him and his wife have some really funny TikTok accounts. So you guys got to search for him on TikTok. Just brings a lot of fun. I mean, it's super funny. Hella funny, the videos I've watched personally. But I appreciate the time, you taking the time out of your day, stepping in on the channel here. And hopefully you can be a regular on the show.
I would love nothing more, man. Let's make it happen.
Awesome. Well, I'm your boy SC1. That's Trey G. And this is Meet the Hobby. Talk to you guys later. Peace out.